Welcome to the public meeting for North York at the Centre, where City of Toronto staff will be sharing an evaluation of a supplementary option for updating the North York Centre Secondary Plan. My name is Yana Newman, and I am one of the co-leads for this project along with Stephen Gardner. We would like to start tonight's meeting by sharing a set of guidelines to help us all interact with each other in a respectful way. We ask everyone to be an active listener and keep an open mind by valuing a diversity of opinions. Treat all participants and staff with kindness and respect. Critique ideas, not individuals. Remember that together we know a lot. Alone, we don't know it all. Avoid cursing as well as language or behaviors that could otherwise be considered rude, offensive, or abusive. Abide by the city's human rights and anti-discrimination policy by refraining from making racist, xenophobic, misogynist, homophobic, transphobic, anti-Indigenous, ableist, ageist, or other forms of discriminatory, prejudicial, exclusionary, or hateful comments and questions. These will not be tolerated and may result in expulsion from the meeting and/or process. We would also like to open the meeting with a land acknowledgement and African ancestral acknowledgement. We acknowledge that North York Centre is located on lands within the City of Toronto that are the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, and now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. The lands in Toronto, where North York Centre is located, are covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation.
The City of Toronto acknowledges all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, in either this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent.
For tonight's presentation, I will start with an overview of the study area and project schedule. I will then provide a description of the recommended option that was presented to City Council in March 2026, as well as Council's direction on changes for staff to consider. Next, I will provide an overview of the evaluation framework that has been used throughout the project to assess various options and how they can help achieve the vision for North York Centre's future that was developed with community input. From there, Stephen will present the supplementary option evaluation before opening up the meeting for a question and answer period, where staff will answer the community's questions. North York at the Centre is a review of the North York Centre Secondary Plan to refresh the vision and planning framework guiding growth and investment in the community. The review will inform updates to secondary plan policies and provide a framework for future private development and public projects. The study area encompasses the existing secondary plan area, which runs generally between Doris Avenue and Beecroft Road from Highway 401 to Drury Avenue and Cummer Avenue, as well as boundary expansion study areas extending approximately 800 meters around the Shepherd Young, North York Centre, and Finch subway stations. Since the project was initiated in 2023, the City has completed Phase 1 and 2, which included a background review, developing a vision and guiding principles, and evaluating draft options for updating the North York Centre Secondary Plan. Phase 2 concluded in March 2026, when City Council endorsed a recommended option and directed staff to consider specific changes to that option in Phase 3. Phase 3 is now underway, and we are back in the community to share our evaluation of the changes staff were directed to consider. The evaluation and community feedback will inform the development of a draft secondary plan later in Phase 3. Other key deliverables in Phase 3 include urban design guidelines and an infrastructure implementation strategy to accompany the secondary plan. The recommended option that was developed in Phase 2 included 5 key moves for the next phase of North York Centre's development over the next 25 to 30 years. Those key moves included revitalize Yonge Street to keep jobs in the community and places for people to enjoy arts, culture, restaurants, and other amenities. Expand the secondary plan area to create more housing options and bring retail and services closer to where people live along new major transit main streets and neighborhood main streets. Expand the parkland system with large gateway parks that have improved facilities and provide places for all members of the community to come together, rest, and play. Enhance the Wilkett Creek Trail as part of a greener public realm network that supports walking and provides opportunities to connect with the land and water. Plan for long-term investment in infrastructure to support growth, like community services and facilities, the street network, and sewers and water mains. Other structural elements of the recommended option include Millasman Square as a primary civic gathering place for North York, the Finch Hydro Corridor Trail and open space, major streets on Doris and Beecroft, and existing neighborhoods which are envisioned to experience little change. Changes to the recommended option that staff have been directed to consider address land use and building types primarily along Empress Avenue, Willowdale Avenue, and in 2 blocks north of Yonge and Finch adjacent to the Hydro Corridor between Bishop Park and Willowdale Avenue, as well as changes to the parks network at Hendon, Bishop, and Glendora Parks and adjacent to the Mitchell Field Community Center. Stephen will walk through the changes one by one, but in short, the land use and building type changes are largely focused on maintaining neighborhoods along Empress and Willowdale Avenues and removing the neighborhood main streets that were proposed in the recommended option. The proposed changes to the parks network are focused on creating more larger parks. The way city staff approached the evaluation of changes to the recommended option was to use the same criteria used to evaluate draft options in Phase 2. That criteria is based on 5 guiding principles for the secondary plan review, which are to grow a complete community, reinforce the center as a vibrant regional hub for work, arts, and culture, green the center, build connectivity so people can get around safely and conveniently, and design places for people. Under each principle, there are a set of objectives and criteria which form the evaluation framework. These criteria will be highlighted by Stephen in his overview of the evaluation and findings.
Thank you for the overview, Jana. I will now walk through the supplementary option and evaluation for criteria under each of the 5 principles. For the first principle, growing a complete community, changes to the land use map are most relevant. These changes are focused in the 2 blocks adjacent to the Finch Hydro Corridor, which changed from neighborhoods to mixed-use area 2 in the supplementary option, and along Willowdale Avenue north of Empress, and along Empress Avenue between Doris and Empress, which changed from mixed-use area 2 to neighborhoods. For the Grow a Complete Community principle, the land use permissions in the supplementary option were evaluated in comparison to the recommended option for their potential to provide a complete community and balance housing and population growth with jobs. Based on growth estimates, the supplementary option would produce slightly fewer housing units, people, and jobs than the recommended option, but the difference is not significant, so both options score the same for these criteria. The options also score the same in meeting the minimum density requirements for the MTSAs by increasing population and jobs surrounding higher order transit stations. Retail is another consideration under the principle of growing a complete community. In the supplementary option, proposed retail permissions have been removed on Willowdale Avenue north of Empress and along Empress Avenue. South of Empress, Willowdale Avenue has been changed to all priority retail street instead of a mix of priority and secondary retail street. Retail is required on the ground floor of buildings along priority retail streets. The land use permissions in each option were evaluated for how well they maintain the center's non-residential character and meet market demand for office and other non-residential uses like retail. Both options provide the same amount of office space and nearly the same amount of retail GFA, so they score the same for these criteria. They also provide the same ratio of people to jobs. While not part of the evaluation criteria, walkability is a core planning principle, and the recommended option provides broader distribution of retail throughout the area to support walkable access to daily amenities to benefit existing and future residents. For the next principle, design places for people, changes to the building types and heights map were evaluated. The changes include 2 blocks adjacent to the Finch Hydro Corridor, which changed from a low-rise building area to a tall building area, with permissions for building heights ranging from 15 to 24 stories. Building heights along Willowdale Avenue also changed from mid-rise building area, maximum of 7 stories, to a low-rise building area, maximum of 4 stories. Finally, building heights on Empress Avenue changed from mid-rise and tall building areas to a low-rise building area with a small portion of Major Street's mid-rise building, maximum 6 stories for lots fronting onto Doris Avenue. For the design places for people principle, the options were evaluated on how well they achieve transition in scale, support a mix of building types, impact sun and wind conditions, animate the public realm, and support the network of non-park open spaces. For building height, transition, and wind, both options provide a gradual transition in scale from a peak at Yonge Street to the surrounding neighborhoods within and outside of the boundary. This transition in building heights down from Yonge Street in both options helps break up prevailing winds and soften existing conditions, so they score the same. When it comes to sun conditions, solar access on parks and non-park open spaces is the same in both options. However, the supplementary option scores higher in solar access on the public realm because neighborhoods with lower building heights are maintained along Empress Avenue and more of Willowdale Avenue. In terms of providing a mix of building types and new non-park open spaces, the recommended option performs better than the supplementary option. The supplementary option greatly reduces opportunities to add more mid-rise buildings, particularly east of Yonge Street. Since the supplementary option includes fewer mixed-use areas than the recommended option, the potential is reduced for new non-park open spaces that are implemented through redevelopment. For the next principle, which is to green the center, changes to the long-term parks and open spaces map were evaluated. Changes to the priority areas for park expansion have been made in 4 areas, moving from the north to the south, potential for additional expansion of Hendon Park along Hendon Avenue, potential expansion of Bishop Park to the south side of Pemberton Avenue, potential creation of a new park to the south of Mitchell Field, and reducing the area for expanding the Wilkett Creek Trail, Glendora Park between Shepherd Avenue East and Andale Drive. The evaluation of changes to the parks network is split into 2 parts, the individual changes to each park and the collective impact. The changes are evaluated based on 4 criteria: potential for new parkland, programming opportunities, connectivity of parks, and resource allocation equity. Resource allocation equity was not a part of the original evaluation framework, but is noted here to reflect the city's broader parkland strategy and the ability to achieve parkland contributions through development, both of which were inherent considerations in preparing the recommended option. The supplementary option performs better in terms of potential new parkland and connectivity, while the recommended option provides a more equitable allocation of resources. The 2 options perform the same with respect to programming opportunities. 2 more considerations under the principle for Green the Center include tree canopy and opportunities to implement green infrastructure. The recommended option offers more opportunities for streetscape improvements along Willowdale Avenue and Empress Avenue, but the supplementary option performs better for tree canopy because it maintains more areas as neighborhoods, which has the potential to preserve more of the existing tree canopy in private yards. For green infrastructure opportunities, both options perform similarly but with different opportunities and constraints based on the different land uses, such as the supplementary option maintaining existing permeability along Willowdale Avenue and Empress Avenue, but offering fewer opportunities for new softscaping in these areas. The supplementary option also removes potential parkland along the Wilkett Creek Trail, which reduces green infrastructure in this area. The last principle is to build connectivity, and for this we looked at the mobility map. Although there were no changes to the mobility map, changes to the land use map impact some criteria in the mobility category. As shown in the chart, the 2 options score the same for the majority of mobility criteria. Where the recommended option and supplementary option differ is on opportunities for streetscape improvement, where the recommended option performs better. Replacing mixed-use areas on Empress Avenue and Willowdale Avenue with neighborhoods reduces the potential for development, which is one of the city's tools to achieve streetscape improvements rather than having to rely on city-led and funded projects. This change also means that the delivery of the multimodal network improvements along Willowdale Avenue and Empress Avenue may take longer to implement in the supplementary option. In summary, the recommended option and supplementary option each have their own strengths. The supplementary option performs better in terms of tree canopy, sunlight access to the public realm, and the overall potential for new parkland. The recommended option performs better on streetscape improvements, opportunities for new non-park open spaces, overall equity of resource allocation for parkland expansion for Glendora Park, the mix of building types, and walkable access to daily amenities. While each option has its own strengths, the 2 options perform the same across many criteria, largely because the changes under consideration did not change or impact these factors. These include transit supportive density, office space supply, retail space supply, programming opportunities for parkland, multimodal mobility, cost and feasibility of mobility improvements, active transportation, transit, safety, mobility choices, built form transition, wind conditions, sunlight on parks and non-park open spaces, permeability, and green infrastructure. Thank you very much for attending the meeting tonight or watching this video online. Please scan the QR code to visit the project website, access reports, or to provide comments through the online comment form. We also invite you to sign up for e-updates at the bottom of the project webpage if you would like to receive project updates, including future meetings and the release of the draft secondary plan later in Phase 3.